everyone. Welcome to Risk Roundup. Today, nations, its government, industries, organizations, and academia, in short referred to as NGIOA, are vulnerable to security challenges from cyberspace, geospace, and space, in short referred to as CGS. While entities across NGIOA do invest in information security products, the growing concern is whether the information security products understand the security risk of a digital global age that they are supposed to secure. Many of the information security products today that are used by entities across NGIOA are off the shelf and has one size fits all approach. Because they are not customized to any business or entity's needs specifically, they do not fully understand security vulnerabilities that are specific of the industry or business or any initiative that they're supposed to be securing. This heavy emphasis on off-the-shelf information security products to manage cybersecurity risk has become a cause of great concern. The reality of a digital global age is that understanding of operations, systems, and processes is vital to understanding security vulnerabilities. Understanding of process logic seems to be fundamental. To discuss process logic and specifically business logic and its relationship with security further, I'm delighted to welcome Rajeev Bhargava to Risk Roundup. Rajeev is the CEO of Decision Zone and is based in Canada. Welcome, Rajeev. We're delighted to have you on Risk Roundup.
Well, thank you, Jayshree. It's a pleasure talking to you today.
Wonderful, Rajeev. So we are facing a chilling new reality of cyber warfare today, in which no one seems to be prepared for cyber attacks. No one means no individuals or no entities across any of the nation's components, government, industries, organizations, or academia. And as cybersecurity threats grow rapidly across NGIOA, do you think that the conventional security technology solutions are able to cope up with the security vulnerabilities and security threats in real time and are effective?
I don't think they are. The focus of current security products is really looking at the network transport layer. They're looking at what we term that as north-south traffic. They're looking at the transport. They're looking for, in fact, what they're looking for is not the business logic, but they're looking for the hacker logic. They're looking for how a hacker infiltrates their system and how it manifests in the file systems, in their memory, in the host computer systems, end systems. And then they take that same technology and apply it to the packet level switching, which is known as deep packet switching. So the same signature databases of millions and hundreds of millions of these signatures now are deployed in these databases filled with hacker signatures, or we can call it hacker logic signatures. And each packet is inspected. And what happens is the network actually slows down. So they actually have to turn it off because a lot of the stuff goes sandbox and it becomes a very difficult thing to manage. And the amount of investment in universities and the number of resources required throughout this whole area for hacker logic is enormous. How can you sustain an environment where in some reports it says there's 250,000 vulnerabilities anticipated every day that there's 250,000 vulnerabilities. Now, how long will it take a cybersecurity specialist to go and find out what that vulnerability is? The typical time for a new vulnerability or a 0-day type vulnerability, it takes a few months. It's not a very easy job to try to figure out how and where that vulnerability is. So it's a very, very difficult, laborious process, and it requires significant resources, and it costs a lot of money, and it's not very effective. At bottom line, it's not effective.
Yes, no, I hear your point on that. What you're trying to say is that all the efforts, all the resources are towards the hackers, where they are coming, where they are going to attack, what they are going to attack, and all those, everything, all the resources are focused on that rather than understanding that where we should defend, what we should defend. So
Exactly.
that's a very important point you made. And then especially in today's digital global age, data is at the center of the warfare. Data, it could be in many forms, like
Mhm.
safeguarding intellectual property or financial information or reputation, or any number of blueprints or business plan or strategy. It could be anything. So data is at the center, yet with the number of threats and the sophistication of attacks increasing, it looks like it's a very formidable challenge protecting the data. So how can decision makers protect and strengthen their initiatives with the right approach to information security? Because you just said that if we focus only on the hacker logic, and if we are only focused on where the hackers are going to attack, or then we are not going to be able to have effective solutions, because not all the challenges are coming just from the hackers. There are many other points where the challenges are coming from. And if we focus only on all our resources on the malwares and hackers, where they're going to hack or attack, or the breaches are going to come, then we are not going to be able to come up with security solutions that we are looking for.
Right, absolutely correct. That's why we took a very different approach. And we said, why don't we focus on business logic? And this is the whole idea behind business logic. What is business logic? Number one, it could be the logic that the designers or the corporations institutionalize in terms of business processes, uh, which safeguard all the policies and safeguard on the usage of the critical infrastructure within the organization itself. And the funny thing is, we've been doing this for a long, long time. And things like UML, Unified Modeling Language, is a common method for, for deploying business logic in a graphical manner. It's almost like a flow chart that tells you what's allowed, what's not allowed. It has more sophisticated components where joins and guard conditions and all these different aspects that that focus on the timing, on the sequence of events. All kinds of those things can be incorporated into these formats. There's another important thing that we talk about. It's a business logic from a designer's point of view and business logic from a operator or administrator point of view. So how does someone actually use that infrastructure? So what we did was we focused on those tools that could, number one, discover what that business logic is. If you didn't document it, then how do you figure out what it is? And if it's lost, if it's a legacy system, then you don't know what that business logic was. So we have very, very sophisticated tools. Rather than doing data mining, which is a very static environment, using normal machine language capabilities, what we do is more like event mining, or the messages on the bus, which are dynamic. And they have characteristics of dynamic causality, or in terms of timing. They can define which message came when and how and where it went. All those things we look at from a discovery point of view, from discovering the mission logic, discovering the designer logic or the business logic. So we have a very sophisticated next generation causal inference machine learning algorithms that basically allow you to actually generate state machines, which are a format of the UML diagram, which depict what is actually taking place in your enterprise. What are the actions that are taking place in the enterprise from a dynamic sense? And so it's not like a normal data mining or machine learning approach where you get fault trees that are not closed. They're not a closed loop environment. They sort of give you an abstraction of trees, and all these different machine learning approaches are done from a static point of view. They have no timing perspective, and you also have to choose the training data sets in order to figure out which are valid. So from the start, it becomes a very difficult thing. How do you know which is the training data you should use to try to figure out what that algorithm is for in a static world? So in our approach, it's a very holistic approach. We look at the whole event structure, and then we actually generate the state machine. Now, who validates that state machine? Well, we have then when the state machine is being generated, we go back to the design teams. We say, is this what should be running in your environment? Or we go to the operator that tells you exactly, is that how you should function? So we try to we get the approval of the state machine that our discovery engine detects to it's approved by the designer or the operator. So now we have something that's concise. So in a data mining algorithm environment, you don't see typically the designer or the operator approving the algorithms. So how do you know that algorithm is actually correct? So that's the big difference right there.
Yes, so it seems so what it seems is that the understanding of the need for business logic was there over the years, but
Yes.
it was not possible to come up with effective solutions. But with the advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that,
Right.
you are now able to create that algorithm that can do it in a dynamic way rather than
Yes.
static. So that's a very
Yes.
it seems that you are on the right path, and that this
Mhm.
business logic now can be given serious focus because of the
Right.
advances of machine learning and because of the algorithms that you are able to create. So it seems that now that there are tools available for testing and verifying that business
Exactly.
processes are
Uh-huh.
functioning correctly in certain situations, from what you are telling me,
Uh-huh.
do you think that these tools are capable of detecting logical vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities? Of course, they have to be customized, and this algorithm is not like one algorithm will work
Right.
across the
Okay.
sector. So it
Mhm.
will have to be customized, and it will have to come up with proper measures about what they need to be monitoring. But do you think they will be able to provide the effective solution that we are looking for security?
Um, I don't think that's where, if you look at the data sciences, it's all based on frequency analysis, right? What's most frequent is your process, what's infrequent is your anomaly, right? Now, typically, if that's the rule for the data mining structures, then it becomes quite difficult to look at the hacker logic, because the hacker logic is going to be very few, right? It's not going to be the majority of the business of the transactions that are actually taking place. Like malware sending messages on a messaging bus. There's not going to be many of those, right? Where the normal running of the business is what you're going to have the most frequent transactions, the most operations. So the algorithms that we have, the machine learning algorithms, are looking for transactions that are most frequent, and it basically will generate the various guard conditions, the paths, the sequence of events, all the joins, and all the different environments that a state machine requires from a most frequently perspective. Yeah, I know what you're getting at, but we have another tool that will get you to the anomaly. There's another way of doing it. Once you have the business logic, we have made advances on a very unique anomaly detection system, which is really the core of our technology. The event discovery or the process discovery was not the main focus for us. The real product was really the DZ audit anomaly detection system, and that's quite unique. And in that, once you have the state machine, you upload that into our system, it will generate all the rules and all the timing aspects, everything automatically. And what it does, it basically observes the messages on the bus, on the messaging bus. Think of a messaging bus as a whole bunch of intelligent systems that are connected to that message bus. And all these intelligent systems or applications are talking to each other, right? And now we are observing each message on that bus. right? Now that state machine, which is a representation which has been approved by the designer or the corporation or the operator, now we embed, we look at that state machine, and now we're looking at that. What the system does, it basically observes each message and checks to make sure that message is following that state machine. So it's basically doing backward checking. Now, backward checking is not a capability in normal programming languages, like the 3GL type languages like Java or C++ or languages like that. They cannot do backward checking. So because they couldn't do the backward checking, they went and they have to aggregate the data, which is the normal approach to data mining to try to figure out if something's right or wrong. Now what we do is we basically are observing each message according to the designer or the operator rules, which is the state machine. And then we can actually define whether that is an anomaly. So when a message is sent to a break, someone's trying to insert a message to when someone's going 60 miles an hour, put the brakes on. When someone sends that message or a hacker sends a message, we will know that it's not part of that designer process or auto operator process, and we will flag that as an anomaly. So we use the state machine as the norm for how things should run. And if any event or any message is not part of that state machine or the operational state machine, that becomes an anomaly. So that's how we get to we identify what that hacker is. So now you can see that it's not only the hacker messages that we're looking for, we can look for things that are, suppose the operator, suppose that we had an expert system we had the mission logic for that expert person sitting there, and an administration, so now some new operator comes in and he makes a mistake, so we can actually point out the mistakes. So they could be an administration error or an operator error that we can define and flag very quickly. So very quickly, and then also the devices, if they don't respond or their latency is low, then we can also detect those kinds of failures.
Sure. No, it seems, it is a very interesting approach, and it could be very effective because here the machine learning is involved in there, algorithms are there, but machine learning algorithms all will come at a later point. What your approach you are saying is that let's monitor the effect rather than the causes. But
Exactly.
to be able to do that, Rajiv, there is a need for very thorough understanding of each and every process,
right,
to understand what effects we want to monitor. And now with the emerging, we have so many billions of Internet of Things devices that are connected now, and the whole Internet of Everything the ecosystem that is being developed, generated. In the next few years, we will have billions and billions of devices that will be connected. So you think about the enormity of enormous amount of effort it would take for identifying all those processes that we would need to be monitoring, because it is not the businesses. If we just focus on businesses are not just working in silo anymore. They are interconnected, interdependent with so many things, so many different things, as well as so many different entities, suppliers, vendors, compliance, legal, in all kinds of things that are connected with that. So I think the bigger challenge here is identifying the processes. Which processes, how to identify each and every process effectively, so that we can create the effective algorithm. So I think there is from what you are telling me, that if we are able to now create the algorithms that would do this effectively. So that part is understood, that we would be able to have very effective solutions, provided we have effective understanding of all the processes across, interconnected, interdependent processes. And I think that's where the bigger challenge is.
You're absolutely correct. So that's why I believe the message bus approach is the correct approach, because when you talked about billions of IoT type devices, These are basically transacting on the messaging bus at the end of the day. They send messages on that bus. I know there's been a lot of focus on trying to secure the IoT device itself. I don't believe that's very feasible because the scope of security or scope of a device trying to identify itself as something is at fault, I think it's very, very difficult to do because it's out of scope. It doesn't know where that message came from. It doesn't know about the message. At the end of the day, it needs to know where that message came from and is it a valid message. It cannot discern against. It cannot discern from that. So that's why the message bus is the right approach. Now, it may be a very complex processes that you were looking at. And that's what the discovery with the causal machine learning algorithms that we have, they come into play. They take out a lot of the effort when you have like SIMs collecting logs from devices. There's a lot of human labor involved inspecting that logs and everything else. It requires tremendous amounts of effort. But I think IoT world, I don't think they even play. It's the SIM approach it becomes kind of ridiculous. So by looking at the state machines or the processes or the transactions that those IoT devices play send on the messaging bus, it becomes a great place for us to install our causal machine learning module that can learn and develop that state machine for you and have it verified. Because it's a totally an automated process. And so that takes away from the enormous amounts of labor that you would need in order to get to that state machine. That's why we created it. It took us a long time to build these algorithms. These are very, very next generation algorithms. They don't exist in the planet today. They're more looking for time causality, which they don't look for in spatial causality. So we're looking at all those different aspects, and it took us a while to put those together. But the funny thing is that it's not only us now that's recognizing the fact. We have a number of contractors. The Air Force itself is saying that, we need to monitor that messaging bus because there's a huge vulnerability there, and we need to detect anomalies on that bus. So the focus now becomes the bus, not so much before it was just basically mining the databases and trying to find out the vulnerabilities and then loading them back into a database to basically do matching of those the hash tables or the signatures on the packets or on the file systems, etc. So I think you're right. So it really gives us an advantage to defining what that mission logic is and what that business logic is using this automated process that we've developed.
Sure, no, absolutely. But coming back to the IoT ecosystem that is being developed, there are indicators that blockchain would be involved in that.
Right.
And it's going to be based on blockchain because that's the only way probably to have effective security measures that we are looking for. So how would this algorithms that you're creating would work with the blockchain-based ecosystem? Because not today, we don't have that yet. But in the coming tomorrow, in probably a couple of years, you will see that everything goes towards all kinds of processes are moving towards blockchain because of the security and because of the need for it. Because there is no other way it would be effective, or we will not be able to have the operations that we are looking for in this whole ecosystem that is being developed. So these algorithms, how would it be effective with the blockchain-based IoT ecosystem or IoE ecosystem, or businesses? Many business processes are moving on blockchain, like content creation or trading is moving on that, or many business processes are moving on blockchain. So how would that integration work with that?
Well, I don't know too much about blockchain, but what I know is with even the blockchains, is dependent upon the business processes itself. So if you don't monitor the business processes for anomalies, whether your linkages or the value chains are linked to the business process, you still have to monitor the business process. Blockchain by itself is not going to solve the problem. So if we don't care whether we're interested on what are those messages on the bus and how the blockchains communicate with each other, are communicating with each other. So we're interested in that message bus and what communications are going on that bus. So we're not interested in the data store or except of what that blockchain does. That's just the blockchain represents for us just another intelligent system. And we're listening to how does the blockchain actually communicate with each other. And so the business process really, what really a business process from my point of view is really the communications between all the intelligent systems and devices. And what is that communication mechanism? It's like the protocol, like the communication protocol. Except what happens is that in the application world, there's no fixed protocol. So every application has its own way of communicating with each other and own mechanism for communication. So even in a blockchain environment, you will still need to communicate with the different data stores all over the internet, and you still need to monitor those. If you don't monitor those, then you're going to still have the issue, because the problems of scope. Because we built this, because the messaging bus represents a global scope, you're not looking at where all the other entities, the intelligent entities, they're working in a local environment. They don't know who sent that message, why was it sent. Yeah, there may be some interesting ways of communicating and trying to figure out, but how do you explicitly tell whether that message was destined to a particular system? How does that local programming know? How do you create that program? You still need to have something that's global scope. And that's what the beautiful thing about the whole aspect of the state machine of the business. It knows the whole global scope. So it's going to tell you what I know, my relationship of my single message with all the other messages. Even in data mining, it's the same thing, where you're trying to relate a single attribute within a data record with all the other elements of that record.
Sure.
But in this case right here, what we're doing, we're taking single message, and we're trying to relate that single message with all the other ones by just checking. So the key aspect of what we have is that we can take a single message and we can tell you whether that message is anomalous or not. Where in a traditional approach, you can't do that. You still need to aggregate. You still need to aggregate all that message and then find out the relationship between those messages. Right?
Sure.
To remember something. So that's why if the state machine is correct, then we know that that single message is going to be 100% correct. There's no aspect of probability here. It's either right or wrong because we're looking at business logic. But when you aggregate the information, it becomes a false or positive or a true negative issue, whether it's right or wrong. So that becomes a probabilistic environment. Now, suppose you were trying to apply that probabilistic environment to a platform like a fighter jet, or to a plane, or to a ship, or even a car. You can't work on probabilities there. I know there's a lot of solutions out there that they'll say, oh, we're going to profile this bus, and then we're going to try to figure out that anomaly. Well, who's going to make that decision? It's got to be either right or wrong. And you have to have an approach that will give you that thing. I mean, our observation, the way that we observe, is based on the designer and the operator. We are substituting him. We're equating the observer to the designer or the operator. They're actually making that decision, not us, because they've approved that methodology. Now, when it goes to data mining, you're looking at someone else doing it, someone who's not the designer or who's not the operator. You know, it could be an IT business guy that has no knowledge of that system at all. It has no aspect of the design. So there's a very, very big difference between our approach and the traditional approach.
Sure,
And
sure.
the only thing that the other guy, the IT guy, can do, he can give you a probability of why something happened, why something didn't happen, but he doesn't know for sure because of the approach that we've taken, right?
Sure, sure. No, I understand that. Now, the, today, the enterprise is not located in one specific location.
Right,
Enterprise is distributed across, nations, nations' geographical boundaries. So,
right.
this is not. Is this approach effective with centralized business servers, or for servers, all the data that is in the cloud, or it distributed like in blockchain? That where the data will be on multiple computers, multiple
Right,
nodes.
right.
How is this designed for this algorithm? How, where would
Sure.
it be effective?
So we sit on the messaging bus, or we sit on the network, and it could be in a data center, let's say DC or a data center, and and from the data center, you're going to have messages coming from all over the place in a distributed environment, right? They're all trying to access some level of service or something, activate some service. It could be coming from anywhere from end systems. It could be coming from another data center located in some other area. It doesn't matter to us. At some point, they have to come to that messaging bus, right? So so in our case, it doesn't really matter because we're observing all those messages that are coming there, and we're basically are if we're mining that information or we're doing event mining or trying to create those state machines, we can just sit on that message bus and basically inspect that message and then draw the state machines required or provide anomalies to that state machine. So the issue of distribution or distributed environment does not matter to us.
That's good. But let me ask you specifically. Let's say this IoT system that is based on blockchain emerges in the coming years,
Mhm.
and where it's not a centralized
Right.
environment. It's a distributed environment, distributed ledger. A lot of computers are involved. Now, the blockchain again is not 100% secure. There are
No.
ways to hack that too. There are security vulnerabilities there too. So let's say one node, one computer is trying to create security vulnerability, or somebody's trying to hack through that, or something is happening which
Mhm.
should not be happening. Will this algorithm be able to pinpoint to that particular computer, this is the source, this is the
Yeah.
data point where the error is happening, and where somebody is trying to hack through that or something? Would it give
Mhm.
that kind of indicator?
I'm not sure. It depends on the topography or the networking topography. If we have a source where we can get those messages somehow, um, I know it's like what you're saying is that they're all distributed peer-to-peer computing environments, and there's no centralized server, right? So if there's no centralized server, then I don't. Well, you know, so we would have to figure out a way of doing that.
No, these are the things that we'll have to think about. We don't
We
need
have to
it
think
right
about it.
now, but
I have not thought about it,
all these points will
how
need
we
to
would
be
do that.
addressed in the coming years, right?
Yes,
Because this is where we are going. And
yes,
what you have developed is the next generation, and these next generation, uh, you know, technology and new systems are being developed. So we have to start thinking about it right now, because you will need to integrate all these points in
sure.
that to be able to provide effective solutions that you are hoping to provide. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason I'm talking about it, because these are the all complex points that we will have to address. And talking about the applications that you were just talking about, all the applications vary in complexity. So what will be the process to define business logic for different applications? Because some applications are web based, some applications are going to be space based probably, and some
Mm-hmm.
applications are going to be on computers, in the geospace. So there are these all integration between cyberspace, geospace, space comes into picture. So how would the processes be defined for the business logic for all these different applications?
Well, I mean, I think centrally, like this is where the message bus comes to play. Like I want to reiterate that the business process is really the messaging protocol between all those separate intelligent systems or applications or end systems, and it's supposed to unify uh, how a particular system should work, like a platform. Like how does a plane platform work? How does a car platform work? Is described by the business logic. Actually, that's really the essence of it. And so if you look at a car, for instance, it has a whole bunch of on the CAN bus. It has a whole bunch of ECUs, and it has all kinds of intelligent devices connected to it. And the way it talks to each other, the way they speak to each other is through messages, and how they program. So it's like a big macro. How do you program how to do a particular braking function? For instance, if you have an autonomous braking system, then before you apply the brake, or because it's autonomous, it's going to go to the video processor, check the distance, make sure that's proper before it's going to go and actually activate the brake. So that's, it's just like what you're doing. You're building up blocks. You're building up intelligence. The smaller intelligence are built into a bigger intelligence, which represents what the business process really is, which actually functions and does the work. So that's what we're not looking at the individual sub-function. I'm not looking at inside the brake. I'm not looking inside the steering wheel control, the servos there. I'm looking only at the messaging bus, making sure from a cyber perspective, from an administrative perspective, from a failure perspective, that there's something going wrong. Yeah, later on we can go and try to figure out, the internals of each of those subsystems.
Sure.
But we're only focusing on the like you said, cyberspace, which happens to be our space, happens to be that message bus, and that message bus is where we can observe those messages. So what we've done is basically simplified that problem of not going into the details and the getter. Look what happens when you're going and looking at in the current systems. They look at every intelligent system, the logs from those systems, like a SIM. They're looking at the output data of that system, intelligent system, and then putting together all those logs that are in each individual system, aggregate them into a big database, and not even know what that whole logic is behind and what they're doing. It's a very tough thing to do. From that point of view, it's very tough. So when you're looking at the output perspective, you're looking at the system output data, it becomes a very difficult problem to solve. When you look at it from an input perspective, which is the message bus, then you have simplified the problem.
Yes. So it seems theoretically, the tools. How many tools are available to identify this business process logic currently?
Yeah, so we have a process discovery engine that basically it basically collects all the causal data in a file, and once that causal data is collected, then we actually generate the state machine. Now, how it does that? That's years and years of hard work that we've done. And so that's it's a single tool that does that. Now, how you must be wondering now, how do you simplify the complexity? And I think that's another thing that we thought about. So what we do is that when we are strategically looking at that machine learning tool, we identify events of interest that are critical. So we only want to reverse engineer, let's say, the braking system for a car. And we know what events or which messages are associated with those. So there may be 50 messages associated with those. So we are only listening to the 50 messages, and the system will actually draw the messaging bus for that. Then we go to the other function. So you can do divide and conquer to reduce the effort in that way. Or else you can do the big thing where you aggregate as many events as you know about, and you try to create that big mission logic. It'd be, I don't know if you've ever seen these data tables and stuff like that. It'd be worse than that. So it depends on how and what strategies. It requires some level of our, so approach to doing this, but it's doable.
Yes,
Now, so
that is good. That is doable. I mean,
yes,
it doesn't have to be doing all those things right now, but if it's doable and if it's possible, that's what we are looking for. So,
right.
how are businesses across industries responding to this, new approach?
Oh, they're very excited about it. We have some. We're working with some major integrators, defense integrators, and they would like to know what that mission logic is for their fighter planes, the missile systems, all kinds of stuff. That's a very important thing for them. Imagine if someone hacked a missile system, and that would be very, very bad.
Those are the
And
things that are really a very serious cause of concern right now. And we all know that, what is the reality of cyber warfare, and with
right,
the challenges coming from all over the world, and especially coming towards west, is very troubling. And that's why we have to keep identifying what is out there, or what approach is
yeah,
there, what tools are available that can help us defend what we have developed over the years. And there are a lot of complex security challenges, and it's not necessary that one tool or one technology does all of it.
no,
If we come up with a pool of technologies and processes, and that collectively can work together effectively, and are able to secure our initiatives, our data, our intelligence, and our critical infrastructure. That's what we are looking at. But coming back to one point is that we also have these complex challenges with the mobile. I mean, the data is not just in the web, and
right,
there are so many equipments involved, and so many such human factor is involved, and where a lot of security challenges come from humans. Either
mhm,
it's human error, or humans are doing it deliberately. They are trying to, let's say, someone who is not authorized is trying to download a lot of information that he shouldn't be downloading. Or
mhm.
someone who is supposed to be working on project A is should not be using their login credentials to access the project B. So those kind of challenges, will these new algorithms that you're creating, would that be able to address the human factor?
Okay, so we are sort of focusing on the infrastructure, the operator, the designer concerns. We're not so much focused on what you're getting at is more like end systems, behaviors and stuff like that. And as you said, that this is a big problem to solve. And
Processes and behavior goes together, right? I mean, we are trying to detect the weaknesses, or vulnerabilities in business process logic. And the business process logic is also directly integrated with the human factor.
it definitely is, but um, the vulnerability, yeah, we're trying to find out the vulnerabilities in the business process itself. That's correct. But like you said, there's a whole bunch of tools out there for security. There's a whole bunch of endpoint tools. There's a whole bunch of networking tools that deal with some aspect of security, and they have their permutations of what they do and how many types of tools they have. But our real concern is really the messaging bus. The messaging bus is really the heart of everything, or the core for how machines to machines communicate. You're looking at a model where user to machine interface. We're not really interested in that. We're more focused on the machine to machine aspect. Now, in the platform world or the thing world, the machine to machine and the operator is a totally different relationship when when an end system user is trying to go and access some file from some database. Where in the platform world, where the IoT world, the operator is actually trying to use that system to fly it, to drive it, or whatever, or to sail it. So it's a totally a different relationship, right? it's more of a holistic. It's not a one-way path from user to machine and back. Here, here is that single operator is going to generate a whole bunch of things. So the model is very different.
Model is
And
different, but model is different. But in the coming tomorrow, where we have corporations that consist of entirely, you know, algorithms and the artificial intelligence based, companies where it's just machine to machine interaction, and where machine will take over and they will see, okay, in refrigerator what is not there, they will go ahead and order that online.
right, right.
So the humans will be out of the picture, in a lot of
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
different scenarios. But there are scenarios like what happened in the big hacks that we have seen recently is that a lot of downloads happened that was not supposed to. I mean, that
Right.
if there was an algorithm like that, then that would have pointed that, okay, should somebody is downloading a lot of information using
Mhm.
certain login user ID password, and should that person be downloading this much information? So if that was defined, if that was a process that was defined, that should anybody be downloading this much information,
Mhm.
then that algorithm that you have created would be easily able to alert the decision
Yeah.
makers that
Well,
something is wrong.
absolutely. But machine to machine, as
Yes,
long as we have, and the thing is, you can always change the state machine to new requirements. As your business changes, you're changing your state machine. So we have a lot of flexibility, a lot of agility in doing that. Our product that has a lot of agility in doing that. So for those levels of like pointing out anomalies on that transactions. So we're looking at those anomalous transactions taking place on that messaging bus.
sure.
Uh, we will be able to point those out. If someone's not supposed to download, like insider threat, I think what you're talking about is things like insider threat.
Yes,
And yeah, so insider threat is something that he's going to do abnormal. So he's going to send out, he's going to go and try to download on a USB something when he's not supposed to do that. So those kinds of events are going to be on that communications bus,
yes.
right?
Yeah, so I think
So we
that's
will
where
be,
there is a lot of potential, there is a lot of possibilities. The only thing now remains is that there is an approach to effectively identify all these complex interconnected processes. And
right,
once that is done, using this algorithm that you have developed, or you're where you are going, I think that would be able to provide very effective solution if
sure.
all these different factors are able to work together. From your perspective, I mean, this again, you are saying this is how many years this has been
This,
out?
well, we started the development about 15 years ago.
15 years ago. That's a long
So
time.
that's what we put a lot of R&D effort in here. So
Yes, so it seems. So
uh,
it seems.
yeah, this is not an easy thing. We have to develop a whole language, a causal inference language to do this thing. So this is not an easy thing that
Oh,
that you
it's
can.
not.
No.
Machine learning, artificial intelligence based
Well,
algorithms are not easy.
even the causal inference engine, not the machine learning engine, the inference engine that actually detects the anomaly once you have the discovery engine, it's a very complex environment.
It is.
Uh, so what I was going to say was I lost my train of thought, uh, but I think what you were saying is that I remember now. What you could do is
Yes.
that the way that we've been using our causal machine learning algorithms, we work on an offline basis. Okay, that means we keep on uh, doing it once to create that state machine. So we have a cycle, a professional services cycle to go and generate those state machines. That's the goal. But suppose you could continuously discover on an online basis, continuously discover uh,
In
new
real
state
time.
machines, and then start to compare those with the normal, and
Mm.
then see what's happening. Now, that's something that we can do on a continuous manner, but it requires a tremendous amounts of computing resources because these algorithms require, the complexity of the number of computations that you have to do is huge. But it's quite feasible to have machine learning, causal machine learning as an online process. And then you could almost make it adaptive, where where you keep on learning the state machine that you generated, and then you look at the differences between the state machines, which is the reference state machine, and you look at the differences. That will give you what all those anomalies are and what the different changes are. So in the future, I believe that I think we could get into a system where, when we get really fast computers, I think they're talking about quantum computers and stuff like that. That would be quite possible because of the immense amount of computing power that we can put these things online and look at the narrow differences from a state machine perspective, where you wouldn't even need to go into the auditing principle where it's fast enough to where we have to go, generate the new state machine and then get the anomaly, where you're calculating those differences in a real time approach. Now that's really future, I think.
Yes, but it's not that far. Quantum computers are just
yeah. So I think that could be a very good possibility. Yeah.
Yes. But
we have the key thing is we have the algorithms for that. We have the machine learning algorithms.
Good. So you see, Rajeev, the potential that what you have developed, it has huge potential.
Yes.
Now we just have to figure out how to create the ecosystem around it, because
right.
In silo, it's not going to be able to do what it's supposed to do, or
right.
what potential it has, because there are a lot of other variables that needs to be out there, that needs to be working effectively, like identifying all those processes, and understanding where all those interconnections are, where all those trillions of data points, where we need to be looking at. So all that complex challenges are there. From your perspective, you have developed that algorithm, you have created that machine learning environment, and you have invested a lot of years in research, and we have put in a lot of resources in that 15 years of research that you have conducted. You have reached a milestone where you are comfortable and you are confident that this algorithm that you have created is going to help businesses across industries, hopefully, and across nations, to protect their data and give them data security and give them the security that they're looking for. But from your perspective, apart from developing all this algorithm, what are the complex challenges? Because it's not just, many times there are tools available, but it requires much more than tools to be able to create that solution and to have that adaptation, acceptance. There are a lot of different factors. So from your perspective, what are the complex challenges you are going to face in the coming years to make this a reality, so that businesses across industries, nations, they can use this in real time, that which you are probably hoping for, that with processing power, hopefully you will be able to figure out that part of the equation, so that everyone, all businesses in real time can have these effective solutions, algorithms that can look at what events are happening and what events should not be happening, and thereby they may be able to pinpoint where the vulnerabilities are. So what challenges do you see that you will still have to overcome?
See, the challenges that we have are not technology. We have lots and lots of technology. We have no problem with that. And we have, we have a lot of stuff. The challenge that we have is really the marketing aspect. Everyone's so focused on malware and hacker technology and systems, a lot of that stuff. We don't seem to get any space for marketing. Now, specialized projects, we're starting to do that. People are starting, and the reason they're doing that is because those systems have literally failed. I mean, you see all the vulnerabilities and all the attacks, and you got massive reports about the failures. But people keep doing the same old thing over and over and over. And we remember all the DHS doing the same stupid stuff all the time, over and over and over. It's a very, very hard concept, even though I describe it in a very simple manner. People forget very quickly, and they don't understand the value of the state machines and all the stuff that we're providing. Is really it's approved by the designers of the operators. We're not observing. We're not creating something that's out of the blue. This is something that's being designed. Like when you talked about all these different processes and all these intricate supply chains and all this kind of stuff, they've been designed. There's a real engineering principle there. And we look to that engineering principle of the complexities of those processes there. Someone's design, even a chip is a very complex design. But the designers have put that thing together. So when we create our state machine, we are putting what's correct. We're not trying to come out of some thin air saying that this is a hacker signature, even trying to figure out whether it's a hacker signature or not, looking for how you go through the steps of defining whether it's a real signature or not. You can't even tell if it's a real signature. It's a complex process. It's not easy. So our challenge is not technology. We've always had the technology. We're way ahead we got lots of technology in that point of view. But the problem is that the world out there is still stuck in their hacker logic game, and their own inventions of what that logic should be, and it's a very different approach.
It is a complex challenge, because here we are talking about replacing an approach or a system. Whenever
Right.
the businesses or any industries or any government or academia or nation, anybody, when they are used to doing things certain way,
Yes.
then changing that completely, it takes time. But here it's more complex, because the cybersecurity is involved. The whole business is survival. If we just talk about business, it
Yeah.
is not only the sustainability or security is concerned, the whole survival of the business is at a play right now. And
Mhm.
that's why there are so many complex challenges. And for any business to even if they believe in this approach or in these algorithms and this machine learning, for them to completely cut off from that hacker approach, or looking at the vulnerabilities from the traditional conventional point of view, is going to be impossible, because they would never feel comfortable to give up that
Sure.
and take this, because this is, again, this could be 100% secured, but it's unproven. So they would think, I think we should, if you're talking only about acceptance, then it is better to have an approach of having a complementary
Yeah.
security perspective, rather than replacing malware,
We're
because
not talking about replacement at all.
yeah,
No. That's why we focus only on the message bus security, which no one's doing today.
yes,
Whether the issue is in the industry today, with all the IoT and everything, message bus security is mandatory, or else we're going to get into some very, very serious problems and security risks out there. That's all we're focusing on. We're not talking about hackers. We're not trying to replace the traditional SIMs or DPI systems or anything like that. No, or the antivirus software. No, we're not trying to replace anything of that sort. We're just focused on our little spot. But what's happening is that these traditional people are trying to say that we can solve that problem in the message bus, which is very unlikely. And that's the point I was making. I was not making the point that
sure, no,
so what I'm saying is that we get cut off from that noise where we're focused on that message bus value proposition, and we're getting cut off by the traditional people saying, oh, because we've done security as a general thing, and this is the hacker logic we do it, so now how we're going to go and do this thing? I mean, it's a totally different ballgame. It's a totally different game that we're playing here. The focus is totally different. We're focused on east-west traffic or lateral traffic and data centers and OT systems, where everyone is focused on the north-south, which is end systems and on the network. So no, the issue is that we get blocked out because the traditional guys want to go and get into that space, which they don't have any technology for. Right?
well, there are always, whenever there is a new innovation, there are always obstacles to be overcome.
Sure,
And
sure.
the point is just to identify all those different obstacles that's going to come your way, or they're
Exactly.
going to be there, and deal with each of them
Sure.
one
Sure.
at a time. And I'm
So
sure,
technology is not the issue for us, like I said. It's really, now we're getting a lot of traction. I mean, there's so many people interested. We're
time
very busy. we're very, very busy nowadays. So it's very
Good,
good.
wonderful. So, what would you like to convey to our global viewers and listeners about decision zone, or these algorithms that you have developed, the machine
Yeah,
learning based approach? What would you like to tell them?
yeah I think it's a our CTO, former CTO Tyson, I think I think he said that this is a very novel approach to cybersecurity. Uh, it requires customization. There's no doubt about it. It requires a lot of effort, and without that effort, you're not going to get that security capability. It's not a plug and play game that you play here. Uh, you have to go through the normal process, to establish this program. Uh, so like I said, sometimes like SAP for performance, we are like SAP to security. It requires that level of integration and building, but also reduces the effort from it reduces the number of man hours, or resources required to do that, because we're not looking for every vulnerability. We don't have to. We're only looking at your own logic, the business logic. We're not looking at the hacker logic. And I think that's what separates us. We're focused on your stuff, and we use your stuff to protect against all the other things coming in. So I think for really a secure environment where as the level of automation increases, the vulnerabilities increase exponentially, and we are getting more and more automated. So we have to be more and more secure. We have to provide. So this is the beautiful thing about it, about our process. So in a typical environment, where if you have a lot of processes or a lot of elements within the process, transactions within the process or messages in the process, from a data mining perspective, it becomes very difficult to identify the anomaly, because you go into the factorial number of computations. But in our case, because it's the linear backward checking that we do, so as the processes become more complex, they also become more secure. So we've sort of reversed it, where if you use a traditional approach, as the automation complexity increases, in a traditional approach, the security becomes very, very difficult to implement. Where in our approach, it becomes more secure. So it's sort of like a different way of saying that we become active. So the more you automate, the more secure you become. That's really what we can do for you.
Yes. So thank you, Rajiv, for
Thank
participating
you very
in
much,
this roundup
Jason.
today. We
Thank you.
appreciate your thoughtful insight on business logic monitoring, and our
Sure.
global viewers and listeners will benefit tremendously from the information you provided on the value of business logic that is being explored and analyzed to bring meaningful security challenges to the entities across NGIO, not just businesses, but this approach could be used in government, in organizations, academia, everywhere. And even if a single individual or entity can come up with an idea to innovate based on the business logic monitoring discussion we had today, this Risk Roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This is supposed to be at the heart of the business logic monitoring proposed by Decision Zone. It is important that security community evaluates this approach to security. Risk Group Cybersecurity Risk Research Center and Strategic Security Risk Research Center are created for this very reason, to identify, evaluate, and manage the risk-facing NGIOA in CGS, that means nations, its government, industries, organizations, academia in cyberspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. And it is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security. So if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the Risk Roundups, to watch the Risk Roundup videos or hear the Risk Roundup podcast, Please go to riskgroupllc.com and do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayashree Pandya, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.